the animals would start to die because of lack of water. So as there is no water, it would be directly impacting the agriculture. So if there is low produce or no produce on agricultural land, hence people will have nothing to eat, so thereby people will, their health will be impacted. There will be serious impact on their health, so they will be suffering from different conditions, like there will be an increased risk of famine and people will be suffering from malnutrition. The diseases will increase, because if a person is suffering from malnutrition, he is not getting essential amount of daily nutrients, like essential minimum amount of carbohydrate or proteins or vitamins, minerals, important salts. So thereby they would be suffering from certain kind of deficiency disease, like rickets or beriberi or kwashiorkor, or night blindness, right, or goiter. So their disease in the people will start to increase. And in draft, we get to know the temperature also increases in a draft like condition. So thereby it will cause wildfires also. And as the economy of the people, as the health, as their jobs would be lost, so people will have to relocate to different place. So they will be displaced as well. So these were the things which we have learned in the previous classes. We're going to continue from this. Please read the given paragraph.
Desertification. The formation of a desert by erosion of vegetation due to harsh weather is called desertification. Human activities like deforestation and improper irrigation are also responsible for desertification of terrain.
Good. So here, basically, desertification is the process by which we get to see a fertile land due to human activities, like increased due to deforestation, due to change in the climate. Hmm? So particularly due to human activities or due to some natural phenomena also, what happens once a fertile land will later on in few decades, like in 20 years, in 50 years, or in 100 years, will convert into a desert. Getting it now? So desertification, it's the formation of a desert by erosion of vegetation, by loss of vegetation due to harsh weather conditions. If there will be no rainfall in that region, if the temperature of that region increases, so thereby the vegetation would be lost, right? So why the weather of a given region would be disturbed? Huh? Why the weather of a given region will be disturbed? It will be particularly due to desertification. If we go on to cut more and more trees, so thereby the hydrological cycle, the water cycle of that region will be disturbed. So if there is less vegetation, so there will be less precipitation, right? Less vegetation will impact the hydrological cycle now. And less vegetation is because we are doing deforestation. So due to deforestation, the vegetation is reduced. And if there is less vegetation, the hydrological cycle will be impacted. Why it will be impacted? Because in the water cycle, as you would be aware, that evaporation takes place not only from the water body, from the surfaces of the leaf also, from the vegetation also, evaporation of water takes place. So less vegetation, hence there will be less amount of water vapor in the atmosphere. So that will not lead to formation of clouds. If there is not sufficient amount of water vapor in the sky, so cloud will not form, and hence due to there will be less or no rainfall in that region. Yes, Aisha, assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum assalam, sir.
Okay. Please try to join the class in the given time. See, Aisha, we have started discussing the topic of desertification. Previously, we have learned about draft. What is a draft? Right now. We
Yes.
are right now learning about desertification. So it's a formation of a desert. How a desert forms. As in this image, you can see that once a fertile land covered with forest has now converted to a desert. Why? Because we are increasing our human activities like deforestation, hmm, has impacted the has impacted the has resulted in the formation of a desert in this manner. As you as we keep on to do as we go on to do desert deforestation, so thereby the vegetation is reduced. As there is less vegetation, so thereby water cycle will also be impacted, because evaporation of water takes place not only from the water body but from the surfaces of the leaf as well, right? So thereby there will be less evaporation, hence hydrological cycle will be impacted, because if there is less evaporation taking place from the given region, so there won't be enough water vapor. So cloud formation will be difficult. So there will be little or no rainfall. Hence, due to that, the water bodies in that region will not be recharged. The wells will not be filled with water. The ponds will not be filled with water. The plants will not grow properly. It will die. Getting it? So vegetation will be disturbed, and hence in a matter of 10, 50 years or 100 years, once a fertile land will be converted into a infertile desert. That is what desertification is. So hope that is clear to both of you. And due to deforestation, we have learned about global warming also. This is also one of the consequences. Aisha, please read the given paragraph.
Global warming is a term used to describe a gradual increase in the average temperature of the Earth's atmosphere and its oceans, a change that is believed to be permanently changing the Earth's climate.
Hmm. Okay. Now, talking about global warming, the topic would be incomplete without discussing about the greenhouse effect. You guys know we have had learned about greenhouse effect in the previous classes. One of you please explain about this.
When the gases when the gases get trapped and then
Hmm.
makes
Yes, you were explaining well. Continue.
so that
Yes. So basically, in this, what happens when the concentration of gases like carbon dioxide or methane or chlorofluorocarbon or carbon monoxide increases in the atmosphere due to various human activities. So in that case, what happens? Those gases will be increasing the heat radiated from the different surfaces of the earth. So different, like it would be absorbing the heat from the sun's rays right now. So what basically happens, as in this image you can see, uh, due to various activities the heat will be released, like you like the cooking in the in our house, or heat coming out of the industries or offices or from air conditioners, etc. So there are different activities that we are doing on earth that is releasing heat. Furthermore, the incoming sunlight, that also contains heat, right? The different activities on earth, that also gives off heat. So activities on earth, it would be burning of fossil fuels, right? So fossil and fuels are burnt. So burning of fossil fuels, so that will be giving off heat also, right? So normally what should be happening now, what should be happening in a normal situation, that the sun's rays that are falling on the earth's surface, so some of the heat from the sun's rays will be absorbed into the surface of the earth, right? And some of would be radiated back into the atmosphere. It would be radiated back into the atmosphere, right? But what happens, the sun's rays that is radiated back into the surface of the atmosphere now, so that will also contain heat, but that heat is absorbed by gases like carbon dioxide or methane or chlorofluorocarbon or gases like carbon monoxide. So they traps the heat coming out of the earth's surface, right? And that will basically globally raise the temperature of earth. That will lead to forest fires, that will lead to heat stroke, people would be dying, right now. So that is one of the problems. So that is what global warming is. So it's the term used to describe a gradual increase in average temperature of the surface of the earth, of the atmosphere, of the water bodies, right now. And this will be in a long term, it is said to have changed the climate of the earth, right now. So year after year, we get to see that we observe change in the climate. So that is the greenhouse effect. So some solar radiation that is reflected by the earth and the atmosphere, like the solar radiation that is falling on the earth's surface, it will be reflected from the surface of the earth back into the atmosphere, while most of the radiation is absorbed by the earth's surface and keeps the earth warm. So what is happening as the sun's rays are falling on the surface of the earth, so most of the radiation from the sun's rays will absorb by the earth's surface, like land and water, and keep makes it warm. That is important also. Otherwise, earth would be a cool planet, very it would be a very cool planet, cold planet, right? Okay. But also what happens, surfaces of the earth like land and water bodies, they would be reflecting some solar radiation also. So this one that is over here you get to see some of the solar radiation is reflected back into the surface, into the atmosphere. Okay. Now in the atmosphere, as I told you, there are gases like carbon dioxide, methane, chlorofluorocarbon, and carbon monoxide. So these gases will absorb the heat, this reflected radiation, the heat present in it will be absorbed by the greenhouse gases, right now. And in that case, what happens, it will warm up the atmosphere and the surface of the earth, and hence leads to global warming. So that is one the problem. So here we have learned about the different consequences of the deforestation, right? So they were as follows: as it it leads to increase in carbon dioxide concentration in atmosphere. It causes loss of biodiversity, leads to desertification, disrupts the water cycle, causes soil erosion also, right? As we know that the roots of the plants would be holding on to the soil particles, right? So if there are no plants, no forest in the given region, so thereby once that land would be flooded with water, so the flood water will carry away all the topsoil. It will carry the fertile soil and hence makes the land infertile and barren. Getting it? So deforestation is responsible for causing soil erosion also. And soil erosion can be caused not only due to water, due to the flood, but also due to storm, due to wind also. We did learn about desertification and we did learn about global warming. So hope that was clear to everyone. Next thing we are going to learn about is reforestation. Okay, I should read the given paragraph
The
before
paper,
reforestation. Mhm.
the
Continue.
paper is a leading cause of deforestation since they need wood pulp. Recycling paper can help in reducing the consumption of wood pulp by the paper industry.
So see, as you guys would be, as we know that the paper industry requires the raw material, that is wood. Why? Because wood is used to make wood pulp. You guys understand what is wood pulp? Does Ibrahim, you know about this? Huh? What is wood pulp? Hmm. Yes.
No, sir, I don't.
Okay, you can see. Basically, wood pulp is like basically like a once a wood is obtained from the forest, so that wood would be chopped into, it would be chopped into small pieces, right? So it would be chopped into small pieces until it becomes very soft, right? And then water is added into this. Then water is added into this, right now. So then that is called as wood pulp. So wood would be first of all grinded to very fine pieces. It would be grinded to very fine pieces, and then it would be further mixed with water. Then that is called as wood pulp. Got this now?
Yes, sir.
So it's basically the fibrous material, basically kind of fibrous material. Okay. So in the process of manufacture of paper, like do one thing, like if you get to have some free time, in that free time now, watch a documentary or watch a documentary on how paper is manufactured. Okay, no? Also, like it's not like you just dissolve wood, powder of wood into water and it will become very soft. You have to add some chemicals into it also. Anyways, the main concern of our discussion is that in order to make our world a greener place, it is important that we do recycling of paper. So rather than burning waste paper, it should be recycled. So you guys can also recycle the paper yourself, like all the paper that you have, just add it into water. There are some chemicals that has to be added into it. So all the inks dissolves in water, and in that manner also we can recycle. Okay. So rather than burning the paper, we must be recycling it, because paper industry is the leading cause of deforestation. That is one thing. Okay, then talking about deforestation is simply the opposite of deforestation. It is simply restoring the destroyed forest by planting new trees. So, in the recent years, reforestation have been successful in certain areas. Right? Talking about reforestation, it has been successful in certain areas. Like the one that you see in this image, this is the map of an area over the years like 2000, 2006, and 2012. So once there was little or no forest in that land. So due to reforestation, look at the forest cover in the year 2006 and 2012. So there has been a significant change. Getting it, guys? So
Yes,
reforestation is basically the process of regrowing, process of basically growing back the trees in a given area, right? So once which was forested. Okay, so that is one thing. Furthermore, we get to see that certain countries have run so many different projects which have been helpful in reforestation, right? Like countries like Brazil have run reforestation projects, which has helped in reversing the damage that has been done to the nation, right? So like they are on a mission to plant about 70 or 75 million trees. Okay, na? Brazil, they are on a mission to plant about 70 to 75 million trees. Okay, so deforestation projects, it really does some impact. Okay, na? So it is important. Okay, that is what deforestation is. In this image also, you can look over here. Like once the forest have been destroyed over an area for our purposes, like for clearing out to clearing out land for agriculture or for building industries, right? So how it is done? Like there was a forest in that region in the past, right? So that might have been burned down or would have been cut down to obtain land for forest or for other purposes. So in the present time, we are replanting the trees in that region to get back the lost forest, right? So reforestation will have so many positive impacts on the environment, right? As what will happen, first thing is that we are trying to restore the biodiversity of that region, right? By deforestation, the biodiversity of that region will be lost, huh? Furthermore, it will serve as home to different species. Getting it? So deforestation leads to loss of habitat of the organisms also. So furthermore, when we do reforestation, it will not only restore the biodiversity, it will be providing a home to different organisms. It will be helping in further maintaining the health of the planet by maintaining the balance of carbon dioxide and oxygen. So that is the thing. Furthermore, we are going to learn about other topics like what is flora, what is fauna, and after having learned about these things, now we would be learning about different kind of reserved areas in the class. Okay, so let us start from, let me just clear some of the overwritings from the previous classes. Okay, have you guys heard of these terms flora and fauna before?
yes, sir.
Okay, can you tell me what is flora and what is fauna? What is flora? What is fauna? Ms. Ibrahim and Aisha.
I don't know, sir.
Okay, Aisha.
Flora
Hmm.
flora are plants and fauna are animals.
Very good. Right now. So we see that flora or fauna basically they are referring to the plant and animal life of a given region, right? So generally we say that it's flora refers to plant and fauna refers to animal. But there's more to it. Just defining it as plant and animal, there's more to it. The collection or all the collection of all the plants in a given region over a particular period of time is referred to as flora. Same is said for fauna also. We define fauna as they are referred to as collection of all the animals of a particular region over a particular period of time. So we are taking into consideration time and place also. Getting it, guys? So flora and fauna basically would be like flora, it's the plant life occurring in a particular region and time. And fauna is the collection of all animal life in a particular region and time as well. So these can vary from place to place and from time to time also. That's why place and time is also defined here. Okay, now. So for different area, flora will be different. For different time period, flora will be different, and same for fauna also. So hope that is clear. Then another question is that how is it important? Why flora and fauna are important for us? Yes, why flora and fauna is important, and why in the recent times they like there are so many issues associated with flora and fauna, with the plant and animal life on Earth. Yes, Aisha and Ibrahim, at least mention some of the points. It's a general question, a very
Uh,
general question. Mhm.
flora are required for oxygen
Mm. And
and fauna turns returns flora the carbon dioxide.
okay, good. And like talking about flora, there are lots of important uses of flora. Mm. That is the plants. See, see. Okay, Ibrahim, read the given paragraph.
Flora and fauna are very important for human existence. The flora liberates oxygen that is consumed by the fauna for respiratory activities. Fauna in turn liberates carbon dioxide consumed by the flora for photosynthesis. Flora and fauna hugely benefit mankind through its medicinal and food.
Okay. So what we can see over here that both of them are kind of interdependent on each other, and both of them are working together in order to maintain a ecological balance on the planet Earth. Getting it? The very first important thing we get to learn about them is that they are important to maintain ecological balance. To maintain ecological balance on Earth, it is really important that there's a good amount of flora and fauna be present on Earth. Getting it? Now, this question is that like, what do we mean by the term ecological balance? Huh? So, ecological balance is a general term. It is whether you say ecological balance or whether we call it as balance in the nature. So ecological balance, it's a term that describes the kind of a equilibrium in the ecosystem or a stability in the ecosystem where all the species will be coexisting in a harmonious relationship, getting it? So what is a harmonious relationship? All where all the individuals are at peace with each other. So what happens if the fauna were to increase too much? If the animals were to increase too much, that will impact the flora, isn't it? Right? Or if the flora were to be distinguished, or like if all the plants were to be cut down, so that will impact the fauna also. Getting it, guys?
Yes, sir.
So the species of plants and the species of animals, both of them are important for each other to maintain a stability in the ecosystem, right? So that both of them can exist in a harmonious relationship. Right now, where, as we know, because both of them depends upon each other, right? Furthermore, in a ecological talking about ecological balance, we not only talk about the biotic component, but we do talk about non-biotic component also, because the flora and fauna, these two are dependent upon the abiotic component also. All as they are dependent upon each other, like flora and fauna, they are dependent upon each other, but they are dependent upon their surrounding also, no, their environment also, isn't it? So there's a branch of science called as ecology. There's a branch of science called as ecology. So in ecology we study about in ecology we study about how the different organisms, whether it be plants or whether it be animals, will be interacting with each other and with their physical environment also. How plant and how an animal, they interact with each other, and how they interact with their surrounding, how they interact with water, with air, with sunlight, with soil. Getting it now? Okay. So that is the first thing. Do I need to define this further? Like, have you guys understood this?
Yes, sir.
Good then.
Sir,
So
can you
that is,
explain?
see, what I said about ecological balance. No, see, in order to understand this, you need to know the term ecology first of all. Let me write it over here. Ecology. See, ecology, as I said, that it's the branch of science, branch of science in which we study about how living organisms interacts with each other, each interact with each other and their surrounding surrounding. So in this living organism which I am referring to here we are actually referring to the flora and fauna, this living organism that we are talking about. Getting it? So that is what ecology is. So now you'd be better able to understand ecological balance, right? So the balance between the flora and fauna, and between the flora, fauna, and their surrounding, that will be maintained if their population were to be existing in a stability, meaning that there has to be a stable condition in the ecosystem, where the different species, different organisms of the environment, namely the plants and animals, can can coexist in a harmonious relationship, where both of them would be benefiting each other and not harming each other. And they will also be existing in peace with they would be also be interacting with their environment. They would be dependent upon the environment also, and in such a way that they will not be harming their environment. Getting it? That is what ecological balance is. So flora and fauna are important to maintain ecological balance also. Got this so far?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Furthermore, as we know that flora and fauna, plants and animals, they are in terms of medicines also, they are very beneficial for we humans, right? So in the fauna, for a moment, let us exclude the animals, exclude the humans. Humans also form part of the fauna now? Okay. So flora and fauna, they provide lots of beneficial products for us, right? They provide beneficial beneficial products to us. What are the beneficial products we get particularly from them? Like we get different kind of things. For example, um, from particularly flora, you get wood, timber, you get latex, you get resin, that is amber, you get there are certain medicinal plants. Flora gives you cotton, very good. We get jute, huh? We get food from them, and we get oxygen from them, right? And flora is essential for to reduce soil erosion also, right now. And they maintain the climate also. They have a good role to play in water cycle and all that. So they provide us with lots of beneficial products. Talking about animals also, there are certain animals, they are also important. Like certain kind of insects provides us with silk, huh? Honeybee, right? Getting it, guys? So just to name few of them, let us write like wood, like oxygen that you get from the plant. You get latex, that is a natural rubber which we get from the rubber plant. You get resin from the plant that has got some medicinal uses. Earlier, it was used to make jewelry also, hmm, like that. And then other things like talking about this thing, like silk that we also get from a silkworm, uh, honey that you get from the bees. Getting it, guys? So all of these are some of the materials that we get from these two, right? Furthermore, the flora and fauna, if a place have a rich density of flora and fauna, so that becomes a place of attraction, it becomes a tourist attraction, isn't it? Huh? So if certain people, certain countries, like particularly you would have seen the countries like Indonesia or the Caribbean islands, huh, or the Panama. So they uh, they are particularly countries, places that are a well destination for tourists right now. Or places like Amazon forest, so that will also attract lots of tourists and scientists. Getting it? So they would be kind of supporting the economy of the given region as well. Getting it, guys? So they support economy because tourism also generates lots of money for the country, right? Tourism also generates lots of money for the country. So hope you guys have understood this thing, right?
Yes.
So that is how both of them are important. That's it. Then we go on to the main topic of conservation of plants and animals. In this, there are certain areas which we are going to learn about that are particularly designated for conservation of forest, conservation of wildlife in them, where human intervention would be limited or would not be allowed, like hunting, poaching of animals, killing of animals, huh? Cutting down the trees. All these activities would be limited. That is what we're going to learn. So, due to the threat of mankind's intelligence, what has happened in the recent years, we get to see that the forest cover has been reducing, and that has a direct impact on the wild animals as well. Uh, there are so many species of animals that have gone extinct or either in danger or at the verge of extinction. As we have learned moments ago, that wildlife, wildlife, by the way, not only talks about animals, but it takes into consideration the plants as well. So, guys, whenever you get to heard the term, now don't confuse it with just animals also. Most commonly, wildlife is used for the wild animals, but it includes the plants also. So here it is actually talking about flora and fauna. It is important to maintain balance in nature, which we have learned moments ago. So that's why conservation of this is important. I shall read the given paragraph.
Plants and animals are the backbone of life on the earth. It is important to conserve them and save them from getting extinct, maintaining their right population that help in enriching the biodiversity on the richness of flora and fauna worldwide.
So we see that 1 minute. So we see that for life to exist on Earth, the presence of both flora and fauna is important, right? It is because of the interaction between flora and fauna life exists on Earth. So thereby, every single species of life on Earth is important. It's not like if like many times people think like how good it would be like if all the ants were to be extinct. Huh? You guys think about this. Will it be good if all ants were to become extinct? Yeah. You guys think about this. Like, will our ecosystem be disturbed if all ants were to just die? There were to be no ants on the earth. First of all, no, both of you turn your cameras on in the class. Make yourself visible. Let me know that you are there in the class. Huh? Yeah. I have asked a very interesting question. You guys at least think about it. Yes. At least 1 or 2 points. Yes, I should think about this, Ibrahim. See, this will have lots of impacts on our ecosystem. It will be basically disturbing the food chain as there are so many reptiles, certain small insects that would be eating the ants. Like there are some ants are kind of a food for other animals like lizards, like spiders, and other insects would be eating the ants, right? Furthermore, ants also helps in decomposing the dead organisms. So you would have seen like if there's a dead lizard or dead rat lying somewhere, the ant would be feeding upon the dead body. So if there were to be no ants, so thereby the process of decomposition of the dead organisms would take much more time than normal, right? Furthermore, we know that ants would be living under the soil. They make holes in the soil. You would have seen colonies of ants living inside the soil. Okay, na? Ants are said to have a very well developed system in them, right? And the work would be properly divided in them. They would be worker class and soldier class, and they would be queen ant and all that. So we get to see that they help in um, maintaining the health of the soil also, as the ant would be moving inside the soil, so they would be creating a space between the particles of the soil, hence allows oxygen and water to go into the soil, and hence that will be helping the plant as well. So in a way they are actually helping to increase the fertility of the soil, isn't it? Right. Okay, now furthermore we get to see that like the another thing is now, like as the main thing is that it would kind of destabilize the food chain. If ants were to be extinct, the food chain will be disturbed and it will impact every other organism. Like as we, if we were to talk about like we have an ant, just 1 minute. Ants, ants are usually eaten by spiders or lizards, right? And spiders and lizards, they eat bigger insects, right? So if the ant were to be extinct, the population of a spider and lizard would be endangered, let us say. Their population would be endangered. So if there were to be no ants, there would be no spiders and lizards. So thereby the population of other insects would increase, right? Getting it, guys. Other organisms would increase. So in
Sir,
a way, right now, so in a way, it would be disturbing the food chain. Food chain would collapse, and hence it would impact every other organism in the food chain. Other things as we have discussed that it is important to maintain the fertility of the soil. It is it helps in decomposition of the dead organisms, etc. So there thereby why I took an example of this ant is that every species in the ecosystem is important to the maintain life on Earth. So the right population of every organism is important. Getting it? By the way, ants are also said to control the population of termites. I mean to say, okay, na? Ants also eat the termites, so they also keep the population of termites in control. So just imagine, like, if there were to be no ants, let us say, so the population of termites would also increase. So that termites would be eating away the roots, the stems of the plants, would be damaging the furnitures and etc. Okay, Ibrahim, read the next paragraph.
The main the main aim of the conservation of plants and animals is to protect and save endangered species along with their habitat so that the balance can be maintained on the earth. This helps in maintaining a healthy and functional environment for the survival of all species on
Good, right? So that is what we're going to be discussing. So there are certain special designated areas, like we have biosphere reserves, national park, and wildlife sanctuary. All of them have the same role to play, that is conservation of plants and animals. Yet they are different from each other in the way how they function. In terms of area, they will be different from each other. In terms of activities, human activities allowed in them will be different right now. And in numbers also they will be different, but all of them have the same role of conservation of plants and animals. So first of all, talking about the biosphere reserve. So as we have had learned about biosphere in the previous classes, like biosphere is that part of the earth which should be the habitable zone. Right now we should make the life possible on earth. That is what the biosphere is. Getting it? Remember in the beginning we have had learned about this, about biosphere reserve. Okay, so talking about biosphere reserve, so first of all, have a look at this image, by the way. This is a usual diagram of a biosphere reserve, the structure of a biosphere reserve. So the biosphere reserve, it's a large protected area of land which is meant for the conservation of wildlife, the wildlife found in that region, conservation of biodiversity, and also to conserve the traditional lifestyle of the tribal people that will be living in that area. Getting it? So biosphere reserve will be the largest area out of all. So biosphere reserve will be larger than the national park and wildlife sanctuary. So out of the three, this is the largest area meant for conservation of wildlife. Got this over? Okay now. So the special things which we are going to be learning about this biosphere reserve is that first of all we will learn what is this biosphere reserve. Then what are the different zones of the biosphere reserve? What are the different functions of these zones? And one particular biosphere reserve called is Panchmarhi Biosphere Reserve in India. Panchmarhi Biosphere Reserve in India, we should be learning. It is in the Madhya Pradesh, by the way. Okay. And what are some other biosphere reserves in India we should be learning today? Okay. Okay. I shall read the next paragraph. The second paragraph.
Biosphere reserves are the protected areas meant for the conservation of plants and animals. It also restores the traditional life of the tribals living in that vicinity. They conserve the biodiversity of that area.
Good. So see, the first very basic thing about the biosphere reserve is that it's a very large area, larger than the wildlife sanctuary and larger than the national park. So it's a the important points. Let me sum it up. It's a very large area. I'm going to just write down the bullet points, not the whole sentence, in order to save the time. Okay. So it's a very large area that is meant for protection, meant for protection, right, or it's a protected area. Okay, now, so it's a protected area that is meant for conservation of wildlife. So it is meant for several things. So first thing is that it is meant for conservation of wildlife. Another thing is that it also is meant for conserving the biodiversity of that region. Can one of you please define what is biodiversity? We have learned about this in the beginning. Hmm?
It refers to the variety of organisms existing on the earth.
Very good. Very good. Okay. So there are three main functions of biosphere reserve. It is meant for conservation of wildlife, for biodiversity, and also to conserve the traditional lifestyle of the tribal people living in that region. Okay, no? Tribal people. So that their culture is not lost, so their population is also not, like their rights are also not curbed. Okay. So like creating large areas of conservation, when we create a very large area for conservation, that will be called as biosphere reserve. Okay, now in order to create a very large area for conservation, so thereby while you are doing so, so thereby the needs of local people to have access to the resources of that area should also be kept in mind, meaning that whenever you are doing a conservation project on a very large area, when your aim is to make a biosphere reserve, so you know that local peoples would be dependent on that region to obtain wood for fire, to obtain herbal plants, to obtain food from that forest, from that region, isn't it? So thereby it's not like you can just ask all the people to go away from that region, look out for them, for themselves, I mean to say, you can't simply expel the tribal people living in that region. Okay, na, because they are also they are also protected by government laws. So you can't just go on to a land and just expel the people, tribal people living in that region, or harm them. So thereby, while we are creating a large area of conservation, while we create this biosphere reserve, the need of local people also has to be addressed, so that they can also have access to the resources of this area, of this region, right? But this region is divided into several zones, and the tribal people can live in, can have access to only the outermost region of this biosphere reserve. Getting it? So this is a very special feature of the biosphere reserve, that it also keeps in mind the requirement of tribal people of that region. So that is the special feature of the biosphere reserve. Getting it, guys? Okay. And furthermore, we get to see that this the people living in the biosphere reserve, these tribal people, they will also be helping in conserving the region, in conserving the wildlife. So it's kind of a joint work. uh, they will the biosphere reserve will be jointly managed, right? Now jointly managed by the local people and the government also. So the tribal people also helps in conservation in this case. So another feature of this is that it is jointly managed by tribal people and the government officials. So far I hope it is clear to everyone. Now let us understand about the different zones of biosphere reserve. So the biosphere reserve has got mainly three zones: the innermost zone, the middle zone, and the outermost zone. If we were to talk about the innermost zone, that is also called as core zone. By the way, right next to this diagram, these symbols represent the following things. The symbol represents biodiversity. This camera represents tourism. This represents human settlement. This research, this is education, and this one is monitoring. So that will help you in understanding what activities are limited to the different zones of this biosphere reserve. All right. So just let me take one more slide over here. So if we were to talk about the innermost zone, so the innermost zone of this region will be mm, just 1 minute. I'm trying to take a shape. This, yeah, good. See, talking about the innermost zone of this biosphere reserve, that is also called as core zone. So in this, no human activities would be allowed. Can you see the tourism, the symbol for tourism in the core zone? Yes. Aisha and Ibrahim, answer the following questions to me. In the core zone, in the innermost zone, the only human activity that will be allowed is
Education.
education, right now. So you can visit there in order for the purpose of education, for the purpose of educating yourself, to get to know the plant, get to know the kind of plants and animals there, right now. But in the second zone, that is the middle zone or in the buffer zone, in this zone, activities like research will be allowed, right? That will also be education as well, right now. Education, research, same thing. So for research purposes, scientists would be allowed to visit the middle zone. Not the common people, not the tribal peoples would be allowed in this. Furthermore, there would be forest guard in this region also. So monitoring will also be done so that people do not enter into the core zone from the transition zone, right? And few human settlements would be allowed, not that much. Few human settlements would be allowed in this region. Okay, now. So what we have learned about the core or the innermost zone, that this zone of the biosphere reserve is devoted to strict protection of wildlife. Talking about core zone, that is the innermost zone. So the thing about this is that devoted to strict protection. I mean to say strict protection of wildlife. So this is devoted to strict protection of wildlife, and in this, no human activities, no economic activities would be allowed in this. Okay, now. So no economic activities allowed. Like neither you can build an industry, neither you can make some human settlements or any other things in that core region of the biosphere reserve. So hope you guys have understood this. So the human activities have been limited in this, right? So only for the purpose of education, people can go there. What kind of people? Only the scientists right now, they can go there, right? Then we have the second zone called as the middle zone or also called as the buffer zone. What happened to this? Middle zone, that is also called as the buffer zone. Now, in the middle zone or the buffer zone, this zone is surrounding the core zone. This surrounds the core zone, and in this there are some non-destructive human activities, like the activities like building of the houses or like cultivation of crops. They will be allowed, as these activities are not in this one, not in this one. That was actually in the transition zone. Sorry about that. See, talking about the buffer zone in this now, in this zone, only certain human activities which will be compatible with the goal of conservation would be allowed. Like for the purpose of research, you can go there, right? For the purpose of environmental education, we can go there in the buffer zone, or tourism will be allowed in the buffer zone. Getting it now? So what kind of activities are allowed in the buffer zone? First of all, the thing is limited human activity. And yes, Ibrahim, you were saying like
tourism,
tourism, research, tourism, and environmental education, right? Environmental education. So all these activities are compatible with the goal of conservation. Like these activities are not going to harm our goal of conservation, right? So this will be allowed. Then we have the third zone called as the outermost or the transition zone. Okay, na? So you have the outermost zone, which we also call as transition zone. So look at this diagram, and in the outermost zone, several activities are allowed, but all of these are non-destructive human activities, like settlement of, building up of houses, and that houses too would be made up of mud and straw. It does not have to be a pakka house, like a house made up of cement and concrete and all that. Got this? What I'm trying to say? Getting it, guys.
yes, sir.
And also the tribal people, in order to serve.
Is, is there agriculture?
Yeah, of course. Agriculture will be allowed right now. Like in order for the tribal people to survive, they will have to cultivate the crops now. So cultivation of crop will be allowed. Agriculture is allowed in this region. Apart from that, they can perform other non-destructive economic activities, like they can perform sericulture, right? They can perform in certain cases, they can apiculture or sericulture right now. That is production of honey or production of silk. They can do that kind of activities. So that will be allowed in the transition zone. Getting it now? So in the transition or the outermost zone, we get to see that tribal peoples can build their settlements, build their kacha houses made up of mud, right? So activities like, we say that non-destructive human activities are allowed. Like for example, cultivation of